One of the things that I hear very often from a lot of people is that they got bad credit. And bad credit can be a bad thing because it can keep you from doing good things. And in this video, we're going to try to see some ways that you can improve your credit score that really shouldn't involve you having to spend any money at all. In fact, you shouldn't have to spend any money at all to fix your credit score. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for checking out this video. This is Wrestling with Finance, basically a finance channel that is for people who have struggled with finances in the past and looking for ways to kind of improve it in the future. Before we get into this video about doing one of those things, like improving your credit score, I'd appreciate it very much if you guys helped out the channel a little bit. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell. Doing so allows YouTube's algorithm to know that I do videos like this, and we'll share it with other people who may find this to be helpful. So I appreciate it very much for you guys doing that so far. Thank you. Okay, so here's the thing. So if you have bad credit, and I'm talking about like low 600s and below for your credit score, it may seem like, oh my God, I can't fix this. I don't know what to do. How am I going to get out of this? Yada, yada, yada. Well, there are ways in which you can do this on your own. Now, the very first thing I would say to do is to know what your credit score is. So if you don't know what your credit score is, you can go to a bunch of different free places. You can Google that online and find a bunch of free credit services. There's one called Credit Sesame that is actually pretty darn good. Of course, you've seen the commercials for those online. However, here's the one caveat to that. Make sure it's an actual free service. You should not have to subscribe to anything or pay any money or anything in order to get these services. If they charge you a fee, like a $9.95 a month fee or whatever that you're going to be charged for every single month, then don't do it. There are free ones, as I mentioned before. Check that out, see what your credit score is, and then write it down. Now, once you get your credit report, you will see where all the dings are on your credit report. And essentially, there's a bunch of multiple ones. Of course, there's the ratio of credit that you have to the amount of debt that you have. There's whether or not you max out your credit cards, how many credit cards that you have, how many lines of credit that you have beyond just credit cards, whether you have any foreclosures or bankruptcies. Late payments is a big one, whether or not that's on there. So all of those are very, very important, but they're not as important. There is a hierarchy to them. And we're going to go through some of those now so you know how to kind of improve some of these issues. The first one I'm going to talk about is one I talk about a lot, which is if you have maxed out credit cards. Now, a lot of people I know do have maxed out credit cards or more than one maxed out credit card, and that can be a problem. Obviously, that does weigh on your credit report. But here's the thing about maxed out credit cards, though. If you have multiple credit cards, if you're a person who has a lot of credit cards and they all have like a high limit on them, if you have one maxed out, that isn't good, but it isn't the end of the day, because the credit bureaus, they don't really care about like how much money you have. $10,000 could be $1,000. They care about the ratio of your debt to your credit. So say somebody had a $1,000 limit on between two cards, each of them was $500. If that person had one card maxed out and $250 in debt on the other card, that's actually worse than a person who may have a $300,000 credit limit and has $10,000 that they owe, because again, the ratio, the percentage of their debt compared to the overall credit that they have is not as bad. So the one thing you want to do about that is quite obvious. Pay your bills. Pay them off as much as you can. You want to get it down to, at the bare minimum, you want your credit to be under 50% used. They say 30% under. If you're only using 30% of your credit, that's actually fairly decent. But really, honestly, you want it down to 10% and below. In fact, if you can, if at all possible, pay the whole thing off. That's the ultimate goal. You should get to the point where in a month, at the end of the month, whatever you need to pay on your credit card bills, all of your accounts will have a zero balance. That's what you want. So start doing that. That can immediately, and trust me when I say this, that can immediately affect your credit score in the positive way. I talked about this in a video I had before. I had a Credit One bank card, and I maxed that thing out and left it for a long time, which we'll talk about the problems with that later on. But once I started paying it off, then things got better. My credit score improved. That's back when I first started paying attention to it. And so, trust me, definitely, it is a thing that you want to do. Even if you have a $300 maxed out credit card, pay that thing off. get as much of it paid off as you can, and that's a good way to start improving your credit score. Now, a really big one is having late payments. Late payments count a lot. I think it's like 35% of your credit score is based off of the kind of late payments that you have. Now, which is basically called your payment history when you look at it on your report. If you have 30 days, you'll see it broken down in the little chart underneath it. It'll be like, this is 30 days late, or 60 days late, or 90 days late. You don't want to get it really too far above 90 days late, because that becomes a different story, which we'll talk about in a second. But here's the saving grace. If you're like less than 30 days, say your bill was due on the 5th, but you paid it on the 15th. You may have to pay a late fee, but that most often will not count as a 30-day late charge, and you won't get a ding on your credit report for that. It's only after it hits 30 days that it becomes a problem. And the longer that goes, the bigger problem it is. If you have multiple late payment on some of your lines of credit, that counts and is a bad thing. So you don't want to have any of that. You want to avoid that as much as possible. But if you have those, and if you have multiples of those, again, the best thing to do is to pay them down as soon as you can. Now, these things can last for up to 7 years. So it does become a bit of an issue, because it's like an albatross around your neck. Now, with the new credit rules that may or may not be coming with the Biden administration, that may be reduced to 4 years in the near future. But for right now, if you're considering fixing your credit right now, go with the 7-year thing. So there is something that you can do, though, to possibly have it removed. You can call and negotiate. Say like you didn't really, you did it one time. If you negotiate, if you ask, if you try to, butter them up a little bit when you're on the phone with them, talk to the manager, whatever, you may be able to get them to remove, like if you have one ding, it's your first one ever, they may remove it from your credit report. If you say, hey, look, I paid it 31 days late. It's my first time ever. I had some financial issues, whatever it was. Can you guys help me out and remove it here or something like that? Sometimes they'll do it, and then you can get that removed off your report. So I wouldn't count on that. It's obviously more beneficial for you just to pay them off in time and pay the ones down. You want to pay the older ones down as soon as you can. But the other side of that too is that newer dings actually weigh heavier. It's like getting punched in the face a lot of times, like the 5th or 6th punch, because the damage is already done. That 6th punch might damage you a lot more because you've already been worn down a little bit. So keep that in mind. Don't accrue more and more dings on your report for having late payments, but using some of these techniques and possibly getting it removed from your report and paying them down is, again, another way that's going to improve your credit report almost immediately. It'll take about a couple weeks for it to show up, but you'll see the difference within a couple of weeks. Now, dovetailing off of that one, we get into what happens if you have over 150 days that you haven't paid this thing. And that's when things go to collections. And that's bad. Trust me. I had one account one time back, I think I was 23, that went to collections, and that was a nightmare. And it took a long time to get that crap off my credit report. Again, these last for a long time. If it goes to collections, and to basically explain what collections is, and I know some of you know this, but you might not know the details. Collections is when, say, like you had a Macy's card and you maxed it out, you didn't pay the bill, it was 150 days late. So basically what Macy's will do, they'll just write that off. They'll be like, that's a write-off at the end for their taxes. They'll be like, all right, we're not getting that money back. And what they'll do is they'll sell your debt. They'll sell that debt for, like, say it's like $1,500 to a collections agency. Now, they'll usually sell it for like pennies on a dollar. So let's say like they sell it to like All Elite Credit Collection Services or whatever, and then you sell it to All Elite Collections, and they call you up and go, hey, look, you need to pay us this money. They tend to start threatening you with stuff. They're like, look, we could blacklist you. They'll do a lot of those tactics basically to scare you because they want the money. But what a lot of people don't know is that you can negotiate this. So if you go and say to All Elite Collections Agency, you're like, look, I know I owe $1,500, but maybe if I pay $700 on it, would that be okay? And you can get that taken care of. And they might go, they'll take the $700. Now, why they might take the $700 instead of the full $1,500 is because, remember, when they bought this account from Macy's, they may have only bought it for $300. And what they're mainly looking for is to make a profit off of the debt that they paid. So they don't really want to, I mean, they would like to get the full $1,500, but if it turns out that they're going to get the $700, now, as opposed to maybe the whole 1,500. God knows when, if you ever do pay it off, they'll take the 700 just to get it off of their books and collect the profit from them buying that debt from Macy's. So that's how that works, and you can do that if you negotiate it down. And that doesn't mean that it comes off your credit report. That's a whole other thing. You might have to ask them to remove it off your credit report. You can even pay, I guess, in some ways. It's a little shady, but you can say, hey, look, if I pay this off, will you guys remove this collections ding on my credit report? And if they agree to it, they will. Another way you can do that is if you find out that there are some irregularities or some errors on the collection that they're trying to get from you, like a wrong address, a wrong name, a wrong social security number, whatever it is, wrong account number, you can use that and dispute it. Now, what may happen sometimes is because a lot of these collections, All Elite collection agency will get it, and then you might get Triple H collection agency, and then you might get Don Callis collection agency or whatever, and they'll just sell it around to each other, and by the time you get there, something could get lost in translation as it changes hands from all these collection agencies. So you might be able to find some sort of error there. And if there is an error and you ask for them, you basically tell them, I need you to prove to me that this is my account, that I do owe this money. A lot of times there may not be a dispute. They may not actually do it because they have to go and prove that it is actually you, and they have to prove it to the credit bureau. And sometimes, not often, and I don't recommend this as a strategy, but you may get this. Sometimes they might not respond within 30 days, and then it comes off your credit report. Again, I wouldn't rely on that. That is an extreme strategy, but it is something. If you're desperate, you can try that. It may work. But more often than not, that's like a rare case. But more often than not, what you want to do is work out a deal with the collection agency, try to negotiate a lower payment for that debt, and then get that to have it removed off of your credit report. Now, the last one is the only one I really can't give any good suggestions about, and that's bankruptcies and foreclosures. Bankruptcies stay on your credit report. I think it's 7 to 10 years. Foreclosures, foreclosing on a house or whatever, is like 7 years. It lasts a long time. It's very hard to get those removed. They're not going to come. Basically, you're not going to get it removed. But what you can do is, again, you can try to look for irregularities and errors on the report. Try to negotiate it that way. The same thing we did with the collections thing. The only thing I would really suggest doing with the bankruptcies and liens is that you try to get everything else in order. Make sure you don't have any late fees, late dings. Make sure you're not maxing out your credit cards and staying under that 10% threshold of the credit that you're using, and just basically paying your stuff on time for a period of time. After 7 years, it will come off. I would check too if you have a bankruptcy that's at that 7-year limit or that 10-year limit for a bankruptcy, and make sure it does come off your report. Again, it's always a good idea once a year to run your credit report again, like the free ones I said before. Check out your credit report, see what the stuff is on here, and then come up with a strategy step by step to deal with these. I would take care of your maxed out credit cards. I would take care of the late payments because those keep going, so that's a timely one. Anything that's timed like that, you probably want to handle those first. I mean, these are really the best strategies that you can use, but it's amazing, like, not everybody knows that you can call and dispute things. That, again, if their information is incorrect, you may be able to get it removed. And if you have the collections or something, or if it's your first time late payment, you can call the creditor and say, hey, my first time being late, can you guys, work out something this one time? There is a strong chance that you might be able to get that done. So hopefully you guys learned something here, and it can help somebody out there who does have bad credit be able to start getting that in order. Because the big thing about credit, it's kind of the same thing I say about money. All it really is a means to access. Having a higher credit score means you have more access to more things. It means you're going to pay less money and be able to get more higher quality products and not spend as much for it. Like if you want a car, your interest payment might not be as high if your credit score is higher. So you'd be able to afford more. You may maybe get a better house or a boat or whatever it is you want. If you want to apply to other credit cards and get like a gold card or really get some crazy like platinum card or whatever, you don't have to be a millionaire to have one of those cards. You just have to have really good credit and show that you can pay it off. And the longer you have good credit, the higher your credit score is going to get. And eventually, you'll get into the mid 700s and possibly even over 800, which is considered almost a perfect credit score. Hopefully, you guys, again, found some information that's helpful here. If you have any specific questions, you can always leave them in the comment box below. I want to remind you guys too that there are some freebies in the description box below. You can get some free crypto with BlockFi by using the affiliate link down below, and you can also get 2 free stocks from Webull. Each of them could be worth up to $1,850. Even if you don't want to keep the stocks, you can just cash them out and put cash in your pocket. It's essentially free money that way. But I would suggest using Webull to invest in. It's a very good platform and it's very helpful. But again, use those affiliate links down in the description box below. Get the free stuff. It's fun. Until next time, I will see you guys here for more of these videos here on Wrestling with Finance. Have a good day.